is what I thought it is. What I thought it was supposed to be. Well, then let's get into it. So I decided that my Mac Pro is getting on a bit now. It's a 2008 Mac Pro, and I've done like SSD upgrade and that sort of thing, and it's got maxed out RAM, it's got 32 gigabytes of RAM in it, that kind of thing, and it's not that slow a computer. It's a dual core, well, dual processor, quad core, so it's 8 processors effectively, 8 cores. Anyway, I thought I'd have a look and consider upgrading the CPU to be a faster CPU, because it's 2.8 megahertz CPUs, and kids are making a racket. It's these are upgrades, which I forgot what speed they were now. Hold on, let's have a look. These are 3.2. These are 3.2 gigahertz CPUs, so I believe these are the fastest that you can take. So I'm going to be doing the upgrade on these on the computer. So I'll probably do a video on that. So you need a camp out there to clean off the heatsink and stuff like that. New thermal compound which came with it. Who knows how good this is? Yeah, it came with it. It's probably good enough. They sell it as a kit, and this is a special tool you need to get down. Now it's basically just an Allen key, right? But you need quite a long, deep reach one to be able to get right down into where the bolts are. A standard one won't actually reach. So it looks like they've actually taken the ball off the end. Used to be a ball joint. Looks like they've cut the ball off the end and cleaned that up. So yeah, okay, that's alright. You know, it would have been nice to actually keep the ball on there, but that's alright. Maybe there's a reason for that. I need to give you a little spreader thing for the thermal compound. So cool. You know, so that's a nice little kit. So my next project here is to, well, I'm just encoding a video on the computer right now, just a short one, to see how long it takes. I'm timing it, and once that's finished, I will pull the computer apart, change out the CPU, put these ones in, and do exactly the same video again, re-encode it, and see if there's much of a speed difference. I might be wasting my time, it might be faster, I don't know. Going from 2.8 gigahertz to 3.2 gigahertz is probably not going to be that big a speed bump, but you know, this will be like the last upgrade I can really do to this computer to keep its life going a bit longer. I mean, it's what, 9 years old now. You know, it's like, you know, 50 in computer years or something, isn't it? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so it's maybe 90 computer years. Depends what kind of computer it is. So yeah, I've got this kit. This was what was it? Oh, I've forgotten how much it was now. Hold on, let's have a look. Okay, with shipping, it cost me $203. I mean, I could have bought the CPUs cheaper, you know, from like ex-China or something like that, but you never quite know what you're getting. So I got this from the US. They're supposed to be tested. It's sold as a kit for my computer, stated for it. So, because it came with this as well, so I didn't have to mess around trying to get a tool to do the job. I could have done it cheaper, sure, but I just want, no, I'm not going to piss around. I'm just going to get the kit, which says that these have been tested and they work and that sort of thing. And I could have got CPUs, I think about $50 each or $60 for a pair or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was from China, right? But I didn't want to risk that because you never quite know. So obviously these need, you know, to take some electrostatic precautions because you don't want to blow the things up when you're trying to put them in. So, right, so I wasn't actually going to do a video on this, but I thought, well, actually I might as well. Now, what I've done so far is taken the top casing off. This is my Mac Pro 2008 version. I have removed the drives. This is actually a little drive mount I made some time ago before I bought some proper ones. Removed the drives. I've got 2 drives in here. Removed the video card, which in this case is this massive thing here. It's a Sapphire 7950 Mac edition apparently. That's the graphics card I use. You take those out, then you remove this panel here, which sits over that normally. It's actually got magnetic clips. The thing with these, the actual adhesive is actually going on these, so I sometimes actually stay behind, but they just need to be stuck back onto the housing. And so that just clips on, right? Just those magnets. You lift it off, then you get to the screw, which is just down here, and also just there for the fan assembly. Right, so there's the fan. So the screw's there and the screw is here. Hopefully you can see that in shot. No, maybe you can't. Let's just pull this up a bit. There we go. Alright, so you get a screw there and a screw there on the fan assembly, which is just dropped into there. Okay, so you take those out, then you lift the fan assembly out, and then you can get in here with the 3mm Allen key and onto the little cap screws that are in there, which bolt this onto the CPU, or hold it down on top of the CPU. It's a little bit hard to get into this one, I can't quite see. Let's get a torch. So just inside there is the cap screw. So it's got 4. When you loosen these and tighten them up, you need to try and do them evenly, because you don't want to twist anything or put stresses on. Okay, so I've already been loosening these off. I just had to do 2 more. So this will be the first one off. Alright, so I think there's only one other tutorial I've seen on YouTube about doing this, so I thought I'd try and cover it. Now in theory that heatsink there is loose. Now there's also, you have to be careful, this is a little thermocouple probe which plugs into the motherboard just next to the heatsink. Let's just bring the camera over so you can see that. So, and get a torch. So just there's a cable. There's another one just there which plugs into the motherboard. I already unplugged them. So you have to make sure you disconnect those before you try and lift those heatsinks out. Otherwise you'll damage them and then you have all sorts of problems. Okay. Alright, so this top one should now lift out. This is the first time I've had this apart. This is the first time I've done it. This is based on my video watching of YouTube. Okay, there we go. One heatsink. And yeah, the original heatsink compound is just about as dry and crusty. That needs renewing for a start. Okay, so I shall get all that clean too. Now also I've done, just to be sure, I've also marked them. So I've got a little line here which goes across both heatsinks, so that you can see just there. So I'll make sure I get in the same orientation and back in the same place, just to make sure I don't mix anything. It may not even matter, but I think it might. This one's got a shield plate here, which guides the airflow into it because it sits lower. So I think it probably does matter anyway. But let's get these guys done. So it's the first one done, CPU replacement. So we'll see how we go. I don't have a static wrist strap or anything on, but I do make sure I keep touching the chassis. As long as I'm touching the chassis, I'm at the same potential as Earth as far as the computer is concerned. So that doesn't actually matter that much. But that's the key thing, is to make sure that you're not just isolated from it, but you actually, because I'm touching this, as far as the motherboard's concerned, it is at Earth and so am I. As long as it's the same electrical potential. Anyway, let's do this one next. Okay, let's put this torch down. So I'm going to try and make sure I keep it all even. I just want to hold the pressure on that until I get the other one undone. There's actually a magnetic plate there, which is quite interesting. The Allen key keeps trying to stick to it. So I'm not quite sure what it is. Something around here is magnetic. Okay, so the magnets are right here on the edge. That's what it is. Okay. Right, I think that's all those off. That's a bit sticky. Maybe it's not quite off. Go on, that's alright. do these again, just to make sure it's definitely right out. Yeah, it's definitely out. And here's definitely out. That's definitely out, and that's definitely out. Okay, all the screws are definitely out. It might just be stuck down on top of the CPU, so I might try giving it a little bit of a slight twist. There we go. Right, which is out. So it's also got these pillars here. They actually locate down. You see how much dust is caught up on the back of this, and again, yeah, it's all dry. So that one is renewing, but I expected that would be the case. Alright, so it was over here. Here are the CPUs. So let's just see if I can line this up so I can get you a shot of it when I'm doing it. Give me a second. May or may not be able to get there. Right. So we've got these little levers here, which you have to pop up. Like so. So one goes sideways, one goes vertically, which is interesting. Got different orientations. So now, again, I'm making sure I'm touching the chassis to make sure I'm definitely near the potential, or at least equal potential. And this should now, if I can grab hold of it, lift out. If I can grab hold of it. Be really careful because it's got these really fragile little pins on the bottom. Alright, so there we go. There's the CPU out. The first one at least. Let's put this down on the surface over here. I should put one of these other ones in. I can open the packet up. Okay, do not touch the pins. Never touch the pins. That's all I can say. Never do that. Okay, that's in place. Just make sure it's definitely located. Give it this a gentle little wiggle to make sure it's actually seated properly before we try and lock it down. Okay, because you don't want to have it misaligned and then force it down and break something. So that's the first CPU in. Let's say this one goes vertically instead of horizontally. Let's try and get hold of it. There we go. Right, that's the other one. I need to give us that for. It's not a PC, you know. Right, so again, never touch those pins, because you're just asking for trouble. So I'm still touching the chassis again before I do any kind of movements that matter. Drop that in place. Make sure it's located. That looks good. Okay. Put it down. Lock the lever in. Right, that's the CPU's in. Now what I'm going to do before I put it back together again and do the reassembly, I've got to clean the heat sinks off. I also want to get the dust out of this as well while I've got this bit pulled apart. Heat sinks themselves, I mean, they're not too bad. There's a bit of dust in there, but I do tend to give it a clean out every time I get the thing open anyway. So I shall pause this and I'll come back after I've given it a clean up and go to the next step. Right, so this is the original CPU, well, one of them. There we go. There's the information there. E5462, 2.8 gigahertz, 12 meg. So that's what was in there before. So you can see the data 2006 as well. These things are 11 years old. So anyway, so the new ones are called 5482, also dated 2006. 3.2 gigahertz, 12 meg as well. So you know, these are the max. When these computers first came out, they had a obviously, as they do, they have different options for which one you actually got, and 3.2 was the top of the range. So this is going to be making this effectively a top of the range computer as released at the time. So this is as good as it's going to get. You know, SSD, maxed out RAM, big video card. I don't know what RAM the video card's got on it. It's got heaps of memory on it. And obviously the CPU upgrade now, so it's going to be maxed out. I mean, here's the RAM slots here, which need a bit of clean too. Alright, so it's all maxed out. So I'll probably pull those out and give them a proper clean before I put it back together. There's a bit of dust in there, so okay. So now obviously I've given the original CPU a bit of a clean, so I'm going to give these ones a bit of a clean. Just going to use a bit of tissue I've got for now. Just get the worst of it off, then I'll go over it with a chem wipe and just make sure, I think, and then do the rest, because it's all a bit crusty and it's pretty much flaking off. Really, it's not really smearing at all. So I might not even need to use a chem pad actually. What I liked about these screws are captive; they don't fall out, so that's quite a cool thing. So, but it's very important to get good heat transfer, because you've got all this to try and cool the CPU. Very important. You don't want to cook the CPU; that'd be really bad. So, right. So I think I'll just actually those aren't looking that bad. I don't think I need to use a chem pad on that. That looks fine, even just with a bit of tissue. I don't think that's really necessary. They're all nice and smooth. There's no indentations or lumps on the heatsink, so that's all looking good. A little tip as well for getting these screws out before I forget about it. Get these little magnetic tools, right? And to get once you loosen the screw, just get the tool in there, lift the screw out with that. Because if you drop it, it could go behind the motherboard, and that could be a bit of a nightmare to get out. Alright, so you make sure you use something like this to positively hold the screw. But make sure you keep away from your hard drives or anything that's important. You don't want to risk the magnets affecting them. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, this is this heatsink compound that's came supplied with it. I don't know how good it is. I guess we'll be finding out. So I'm just going to put a bit of a dribble across there. And on the other one, you have to make sure you've got an adequate amount, but also you don't want to be ridiculous with it and have too much. So I'm just going to put basically a cross on the heatsinks. Okay, they say to put like a line across and stuff like that, but I'd rather try and go towards the corners and make sure it's going to spread far enough. But again, you don't want to be ridiculous with it and end up with CPU paste, heat transfer paste everywhere. Alright, so let's spread around a bit. It's a little bit messy, but that's what you get a heat transfer compound. So let's drop this in. Okay, and it just sits on there like that. How much can you see? Yeah, kind of okay. What you're supposed to do with these when you tension them up is you go diagonally. That way you've got nice even tension. That's quite important, because otherwise you can twist things or it won't sit flat. Just put a little bit down, a little bit of tension. That's just touching now. So if you don't do it right, the heatsink won't sit flat on top of the CPU and it won't cool properly. So it's very important you do that, because if you just tighten one down, the thing will be sitting at an angle and you'll never get it back down again. This won't do it unless you end up stressing something. Right, so I'm just going to do diagonal. You always do opposite corners if you're tensioning stuff like this. So let's put a little bit on each one. Don't do it tight, you just get it on there and just a little bit of tension. Do the next one. Very important. Now, so this is the first time I've actually done a CPU upgrade, but be mechanically aware, and it's I know it's important to get that right. It's just basic principle about doing mechanical stuff like that. Just do a little bit at a time. Don't do one just all the way up. Okay, it's starting to move around now. You probably saw it tip. We might have seen a tip. Okay. It's putting itself into place. just about down there. Okay. And you don't want to over tighten them obviously, but equally you want to make sure you got it down tight enough so that the heatsink plates had a chance to spread around properly. And that's the other thing I should have mentioned, is when you put it in, you try and move it around slightly to sort of wiggle it, just to help it bed in. You can't move very much because it is in guides which hold it straight. Okay, that's pretty much that one now. Right, so it's in guides to hold it straight. So you can't really move it much at all, but that's in there. Okay, making sure I can't see any movement which it shouldn't be there. All looks good. So need a little bit more heatsink on that one. Compound, it's just not quite looking right. It's slightly more. It's almost enough. Just looks a little bit thin, a couple of spots. Right. Again, you don't want to put too much on, you have to be sensible, but you don't swim it in it, otherwise you end up with paste everywhere and that can cause problems in itself. Okay, so you have to make sure they're right around. Also, I marked them because you need to put those plugs back on the sensors. Right. So I'll record the whole process after this point to show the reassembly of the fan and stuff like that. So I didn't show the disassembly of that. Come on, get in there. It's not bedding in. There we go. So you never try and do this all in one. You don't just try and tighten one first up. You just don't do that. It's really bad. So you take tension up, but you don't tighten it. Because we go back to the first one, the very last one you did before, well, the previous set, the last of the previous set, you'll see that that has actually come loose again. So. In there. Get in. I'm probably being too precise about this. I probably don't need to be this gentle, but I'd rather be. Found the magnets again. Get off the magnets. Okay, so that's it. Okay, all done. I'll put these clips back on for the sensing. Back on, not clips. Alright, so good. Let's just quickly pop these out. Blow the dust off them. There's not that much on them because I do tend to keep them clean. But you look at these, it's interesting, there's like a residue on here. Like oil. That's interesting. What's that from? Where does that come from? Now I'm looking for bad capacitors. Because it normally sits this way up, you see. So I'm checking for bad capacitors, because if a capacitor's gone, it could be where that oil's come from. That's interesting. See, this is just some heatsink residue which has come out a little bit, but I don't know, it doesn't seem to have a smell. I can't see any signs of bad caps, so it's probably nothing. Just interesting, very interesting. Right, same deal here. It's got the same thing too. This one sits the other way up, so probably not ideal. It's probably not a problem. I can't see any signs of bad caps or caps leaking, so it's probably just me being a bit paranoid about things. Right. These are pretty clean, so I always give it a clean when I pull it apart anyway. So, yeah. Right, now let's put the rest of this back together. So the hardest bit is actually getting these screws back into this fan assembly. To kind of slot that down because it goes into a slot like so. It's got like a locator. There's a wire, then you have to make sure you don't pinch it. Pop that in place like so. Now this is where it gets a little tricky because you've got to try and get into here. Just make sure you can see it on camera. Yep. And it's tricky because you can't do it without almost dropping the screw. So I'm going to stick the screw on the end of my magnet here and try and screw it in with that to get started. All right. It may or may not work. As long as I get it in the hole without dropping it, that's the best thing. All right, so. Where's that going? Try and find the hole it goes into. Nothing like not being able to find the hole. Is it going in? Yes, it is. Right, that's fine. That's in. That screw. Same thing again. Try and put it in here so I can do this up with this. Just to get it started. Come on, in you go. Not going to work. Sometimes it works. The main thing is you don't drop it. Which you would do if you just put it on the end of a screwdriver, most likely, unless you happen to be particularly lucky. Okay, there we go. The hole doesn't quite line up with the housing, it's just very slightly off. Just have to pull it just a fraction. That's all in. Okay, so that's it. I'll put this back in again. So it's got these little magnetic tabs here which are supposed to be stuck in there like this. But that's that. The sticky adhesive is failing. It does the job, you know, you stick it back on again, it's fine. You know, once it's back in place, it doesn't really go anywhere anyway. Alright, so it's back in place there like that. That's in, that's in. That one there is missing, so that's it. Put that back in as well. Like so. Now, let's drop it back in. Let's brush some dust off. Slide it underneath that piece and in. Okay. Easy as that. So now I'm drop the SSD back in again. Make sure there's no wires in the way. Drop this drive back in. I have two drives. My main drive, let's just brush some dust off this. And got the main drives for, well, the main drive for the main system. And I've got the secondary drive which I used to store the videos on after I've recorded them and after they've been put on YouTube. So it's my archive drive, I suppose. So video card, I'll drop this in. This is a bit tricky to get in because it's a massive card and it's really hard getting it lined up. Okay. That's in there. So this is the bracket that goes over the actual top of the ports, or the brackets. So it's got two screws there, which are both sprung. So you hook the top edge in, and then do the screws up. Instead of having one for each device, you set those two, and that's it. So it's pretty cool. Saves a bit of messing around. And there's I've got these two power cables now to plug in. And that should be that. Fingers crossed I haven't stuffed anything up. We'll find out shortly. Okay, so we seem to have success. 2 by 3.2 GHz quad core Intel Xeon. So I didn't blow it up. Yay! Alright, so I use Handbrake for doing encoding. These are the settings I pretty much use. And the original file, well, the first time I did the encoding on this particular file, it took exactly 4 minutes. That's on the 2.8 GHz processors. I've now obviously changed to 3.2 GHz processors, and now encoded in 3 minutes 37 seconds thereabouts. So it's not a huge amount faster, but it is faster. And you know, when you're doing video encoding, it takes an hour and a half, or 2 hours to encode a video. You know, it's worth having a little bit extra speed. Even, you know, it only saves you 3 minutes, but it still saves you some time. So okay, I'll just say that.